Aloha! I'm Kathy Inkanen, a volunteer docent at the Okage-sama Day exhibit at the Japanese Culture Center of Hawaii. Welcome to our virtual tour of the post-war political, labor, and business periods of the exhibit. Hawaii must change. How do I achieve equality? I've been a lifetime member since 1998, and as a sansei, have been proud to see the center grow. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to receive more content. Mahalo to the CPB Foundation and other sponsors for their continued support. World War II changed the Hawaii community. Post-war, the Nisei veterans' experiences away from Hawaii and in the battlefields gave them new meanings to the word equality, liberty, justice, and democracy. We will discuss how the political landscape changed from the dominating Republican Party to the Democratic Party gaining power and dominance. Businesses changed from the traditional Big Five to a more diverse workforce as more women and young people attended college and became executives or created their own businesses. As values and aspirations changed, the Nisei recognized that the path to achieving equality would require perseverance and determination, a value we call gambare. The community was determined not to return to the status of second-class citizens. Mel Inamasu will now speak about politics in the post-war period, and I'll be back. I'll speak about labor and business.
Aloha. I'm Melvin Inamasu, a volunteer docent at the Okage-sama Day exhibit at the Japanese Cultural Center of Hawaii. Welcome to our virtual tour of the post-war political history of Hawaii. Post-war Hawaii was a time for change. The community was led by a group of newly educated Nisei veterans who sought a more fair and just society. They recognized that political power would be the means to achieve equality for all citizens. One of these veterans was George Ariyoshi, a second-generation Japanese-American born in 1926. He gratefully attributes his achievements to his parents, whose values guided him on his journey. In his words, "Okage-sama de, I am what I am because of you." Ariyoshi was in the 8th grade when he declared to his father that he wanted to become a lawyer. His father responded, "I can give you money, but you can spend it all. But if I help you get an education, it'll be with you forever." He graduated from McKinley High School in 1944 and was drafted into the Military Intelligence Service. Using his GI Bill privileges after the war, he attained his undergraduate degree at Michigan State University, and then his law degree at the University of Michigan. In 1952, he returned to Hawaii to begin his practice. This was a time when the Nisei veterans were organizing to challenge the business and political oligarchy of the plantation system in Hawaii. 2 years later, Ariyoshi was introduced to John Burns, who was the leader of the political movement. Burns encouraged him to run for elective office just 2 days before the registration deadline and 33 days before the election. With his parents' support, Ariyoshi accepted the challenge and was elected as the youngest state representative in the Democratic Party Revolution of 1954. That election ended 60 years of Republican dominance of political power in Hawaii. Burns was later elected as Hawaii's delegate to Congress. Statehood was achieved in 1959 with the approval of over 90% of the voting electorate. The Democrats then embarked upon an aggressive agenda which prioritized equal opportunity for everyone in the multi-ethnic community. Among their major accomplishments, public education was given top priority. New programs and professional schools were developed at the university. A network of community colleges was established throughout the islands. Tax revisions helped low-income people, and in the interest of open government, public hearings encouraged citizen participation in government. Business incentives were encouraged, and workers benefited from raises of the minimum wage. government workers were given the right to collective bargaining. Land reform made home ownership possible for many by changes in the land tax laws. In 1970, Ariyoshi was elected lieutenant governor for John Burns' second term as governor. When Burns was medically unable to complete his term, Ariyoshi replaced him in 1973. He was subsequently elected as governor for 3 successive terms.
This is indeed a very proud and a very glorious day, a very long-awaited day for all of the people of Hawaii. And as the years go by, we forget the things that have been very, very important and all part in the history of Hawaii. And it is very, very essential for us from time to time to pause and for us to reflect upon where we have been and where it is that we are headed.
His administrations were marked by fiscal conservatism as the post-statehood economic boom came to an end. He guided the state through its first economic recession. By his own definition, he was a social liberal and a fiscal conservative. He was also a visionary, focused on the future of Hawaii for the next generation. His economic planning introduced controlled growth, the planned use of resources, and the protection of the environment. In a 1984 interview, Dan Aoki, a 442nd veteran, summarized the political revolution and the contributions of George Ariyoshi. Quote, "Since becoming the majority party, the Democrats, with Jack Burns as their leader, have focused all of their efforts on breaking down the so-called wall of prejudice against the non-whites. The election of George Ariyoshi was the climax of it all. He happened to be at the right place at the right time. It's not that we wanted to elect a Japanese governor. We just wanted a non-white person to prove to the people that one doesn't have to be a white person to be a leader." Following Ariyoshi's political departure, the governorship was assumed first by a native Hawaiian, John Waihee III, then a Filipino-American, Benjamin Cayetano. In 2002, the people of Hawaii elected as governor Linda Lingle, a female, Caucasian, Republican from the continental U.S. In 2008, Hawaii-born and raised Barack Obama was elected President of the United States. Indeed, 50 years after the Nisei-inspired Democratic Party revolution, change had come to Hawaii and to America.
God, so help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
After World War II, a wave of change also transformed labor and business in Hawaii. Rapid growth of unions following World War II contributed to major changes in Hawaii. ILWU, or the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, was the first union to bring together all workers regardless of race or skill. ILWU leaders supported the Democratic Party, opposing the Big Five corporations. The Big Five companies were Alexander and Baldwin, American Factors, Castle and Cook, C. Brewer, and Theo Davies. These companies had complete control of Hawaii's sugar plantation and leaned heavily towards the Republican Party. Today, less than half of the Big Five companies still exist. Japanese Americans began to hold prominent leadership roles in various unions. The ILWU union remained strong on the waterfront, but as tourism became Hawaii's main industry, AFL-CIO Local 5 emerged with 12,000 members. Government employees are now unionized, including teachers and professors. In the 1980s, there were labor unrest on the waterfront and labor strikes held by various unions. The Hawaii Employers Council was formed to assist management in negotiations and management training. Betty Hirozawa was the first female Asian American executive at the Hawaii Employers Council. She studied labor and industrial relations at the University of Hawaii and Cornell University. On a personal note, I knew Betty for over 40 years. I was personnel and training manager at the Kahala Hilton Hotel and HR director at Citibank, and our paths crossed professionally. She was my idol and mentor. We later served on the board of the Japanese Women's Society Foundation and became friends. Values and aspirations changed after World War II. Now, the Japanese Americans moved out of their ethnic neighborhoods and entered into the mainstream of the community. However, there were still difficulties in buying homes. The Tanomoschi system, where members contribute funds to loan to a single member for purchase of a home or business, was not sufficient. Central Pacific Bank was established in 1954 and Citibank in 1959 to serve the Japanese American and other minority communities. For many Nisei, leadership abilities were channeled into the establishment of their own businesses. Founded by Fred and Frank Kaneshiro, Columbia Inn served Colombian coffee. My friend Gene Kaneshiro says their motto was "Good coffee makes a great restaurant," and so his dad named the restaurant Columbia Inn. By the way, Kona coffee was not popular yet. Keiji Kawakami started Iolani Sportswear, manufacturing aloha shirts made from colorful Japanese fabrics. Until recently, the company manufactured aloha wear run by their third-generation family, which is also known for their musical group Manoa DNA. Zippy's opened in 1966, and their name was tied to the introduction of zip codes, which was about the same time as the opening of their first restaurant. Customers always get fast zip service. Albert and Wallace Teruya, known as the Good Times brothers, opened Times Supermarket in 1949. ABC Stores started as ABC Drugs by Dr. Sidney Kosasa, but his vision of the expanding visitor industry now has ABC Stores selling souvenirs on almost every block in Waikiki. The founder of Highway Inn, Seiichi Toguchi, learned to cook in a mainland internment camp. He returned to Hawaii and named his restaurant Highway Inn, as it was originally located on Farrington Highway. My fellow board member at the Japanese Chamber of Commerce, Gordon Kagawa, tells me that his grandfather, who started Occidental Life Insurance Company, fought for equality, as insurance rates were higher for non-Caucasians. Occidental became the first insurance company to offer non-discriminatory rates for all. On a personal note, I remember in the 50s and 60s, a lady from Occidental, whom we called Auntie Laura, came every month to collect $5 premiums for insurance for my brother and myself. What great customer service! In summary, all ethnic groups benefited from the political, social, and economic changes initiated by Japanese Americans in the post-war period. I hope you enjoyed this segment. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to receive more content. Mahalo to the CPB Foundation and other sponsors for their continued support.